Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. Now, tonight's upload is something I've been holding on to for a little while. It's not just another string of random encounters. This is a full set of Dogman experiences sent to me by a man who goes by the Reverend. Let me tell you right now, if you think you've heard it all in this subject, just wait. The first two emails he sent are intense. They're raw, detailed, and grounded in a way that makes you stop and really listen. But it's the third one. That's the one I need to give you a heads up about. The final experience involves a child in danger, and yes, there is loss involved. Out of respect for the people mentioned in this story, all names have been changed, and just know, this isn't some wild piece of fiction. This is a man trying to process something no one should ever have to carry alone. So whether you believe in these creatures or not, tonight, I just ask you to listen. Before we jump into the Reverend's encounters, I just want to remind you, if you're here listening and you've had an encounter of your own and would like to share it here on the channel, please reach out to me. Send me an email. I'd love to hear your story. Now, it's time to get into this thing. Legends, lock in. Let's begin. Everyone grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Good day, Reels. Let me start by saying that I have been listening to your channel, even commenting here and there with some advice or theories which have worked for me for a bit. Not long, maybe about a month now. I noticed that not only are you sincere and without judgment, so are your subscribers. I've told two people about this encounter before. One thought I was lying out of my butt, making it up to sound cool or whatever. The other believed me. I'm not good with lies. I get physically ill and dry heave until I come clean and tell the truth. Something about how guilt hits my brain, I think. I've never thought about putting these encounters out in public. That's character suicide in my mind. But you're different. You've seen. You believe. And so do your subscribers. I've gotten the feeling more than once while listening to your channel that I've found a family of sorts. A safe place where judgment doesn't exist and encounters are taken seriously and believed. Not all, of course. Some people make things up for attention, but I'm not one of those. The less attention on me, the better. I've had quite a few encounters happen in my life, and I don't think the Dogmen are through with me yet. If you want, I can send the others to you. Some are not so bad. Others are terrifying. Some are lessons that should be passed on to help others be more prepared. Most of my encounters are the typical kind, being hunted, getting shooed off their territory, and the like. Never had one come to my home, though, but I know they're known to do so. I'll share my very first encounter with you now, as it's the strangest one I've ever had in my 46 years of life to date. It's definitely different from your usual submissions, but no less true. I think it gave me a viewpoint on these things that goes against the majority of sightings from others, and even my own later ones. First, a little background on me. I was raised in an unofficial reservation for the Houma Apache tribe in South Louisiana. I know people are going to argue saying there's no such thing, and those people are probably looking at the federal list of native tribes. We are not on that list, nor any list. The Houma tribe is an offshoot of the Lipan Apache tribe out of South Texas. We moved south of Houma, Louisiana, into the Bayous, and changed our name to Homa. We're not a friendly tribe. As children, we're first taught to accept our death and to fear nothing, not even that death. We're taught to observe the animals, especially the predators in the area, and emulate them to the best of our abilities. I myself am what's considered a half-breed, which isn't a good thing in this particular tribe. Impurity is a bad thing. Only the strongest bloodlines have the strongest chances. So, as a result, my childhood wasn't a good one. Now is probably a good time to inform your subscribers of a trigger warning for child abuse, though I'll spare a lot of the details. Shortly before my coming-of-age rite, where at age 10 we boys are blindfolded, taken into the Bayou, and dropped at a random location no less than 10 miles from the reservation to find our way home. I was in the swamps just trying to avoid being home. I heard the voices of some of the tribal boys getting closer, and I knew their intent. A beating was coming. They found me, beat me to a pulp, and left me for dead. As I lay there bleeding, feeling death creeping along me, I heard and smelled animals approaching. I'm more of an animalistic nature, and the best way to describe me as a child was feral, literally. So when the scent of a predator filled my nose, I knew I was in trouble. But I'd already accepted my end. I was ready to go. Heavy footfalls to my right, above my head. The scent of wolf-like musk and the sound of a low, throaty growl filled the air. The growl vibrated my vision, like when you put one of those vibrating massagers on your neck and your eyes blur from it. What came into view was perhaps the cleanest, healthiest-looking rougarou I'd ever seen. We're used to the rougarou in the bayous. Most call them dogmen. Same thing, really. This one had light brown fur mixed with dark brown stripes, and a lighter belly, almost a dingy white. He was about 5 feet from me, standing upright, lips curled back in a snarl that made me feel like my fate was sealed. Another footfall came from my left, softer, like it was on all fours, being stealthy. Its hot breath hit my ribs and chest, then another arrived. This one I never heard coming. From directly behind my head, a large canine head appeared in my vision. This one sounded different. It was whimpering softly, almost sadly, like it was hurt by the state I was in. I was a young boy lying on my back, blood coming from my mouth, nose, ears, cuts and stabs across my chest and stomach, gashes on my right leg, completely unable to move, not from fear, from the beating. Then the third one stepped over me on all fours, covering me. I saw its belly. This one was female. I counted 8 nipples, not engorged, but lightly filled. She was either carrying a pup or had just weaned one. Judging by her belly, I'd say she had just weaned one. The first one looked at her, then back at me and snarled again. The female growled back. He was the alpha, I was sure of it. But like most of us men know, our women call the shots. They just let us think we're in control. Yeah, you're just waiting for me to drop one of my corny dad jokes in here, huh? Yeah, I'm not falling for that. I'm not touching this one, my friend. He stopped growling instantly and looked back toward the direction where the other boys had gone, watching silently. Just so your subscribers know, no, they did not have tails. They looked like unnaturally large bipedal timber wolves with very light-colored eyes. Some backwards bent legs and all. Not bears, not coyotes. I know the difference. The second one approached me closer and sniffed and let out a throaty growl part huff. The female hovered over me more, as if she was protecting me. She made a sharp yip at the second one, and he backed away quickly. She raised her hand to trace my wounds, and very lightly traced her claw around one. The claw was as cold as ice, and even though she was being gentle, I felt the razor sharpness of it. She had cut me, and I flinched and grunted a little. She recoiled back, and she started licking where she had cut me. My immediate thought was she was licking the blood off me to prep herself for 10-year-aged human flesh. I accepted my fate without fear, but the teeth never came. She licked everywhere that I was bleeding. I heard voices coming from the swamp, from the direction where my tribesmen had gone before. It was the same boys again, and they were talking about finishing the half-breed once and for all. I tensed. Images flooded my mind, and the female somehow picked up on it. She let out a quick growl, and both the males looked toward her. She grunted and yipped sharply at each of them, and they moved just out of sight. Even the female backed away into some brush. I saw the second one now, as his hiding place wasn't hiding much of anything. Same color patterns, though he looked younger. Knowing what I know now, I'd say he was the offspring of the other two from a much earlier litter. When the boys came into view, both males let out the most terrifying roar, loud enough to shake the entirety of Oyster Bayou. Every gator in the area sounded like they hit the water at top speed, fleeing the terrible sound. Behind me, while the males were roaring, she was snarling so loud that the sound still echoes in my ears to this day. The boys screamed loud and ran faster than I've ever seen a human run, back toward the reservation. The Rougarous came out of their hiding places and stood over me, not in a predatory way, but like a protective vigil. The female would lay her massive head on my chest and would clean any more bleeding that occurred, then lay her head back down. This seemed like it went on forever. However, it probably only lasted half an hour or so. Hard to tell time in the bayou with no amenities such as watches. I had noticed the sun. It hadn't changed much from its 2 p.m. position. I only know that now, of course, but I didn't then. I then heard voices. Different voices. 3 of them. Adults. One of which was my tribal adopted father. I call him Pahana, which is our way of saying father who is not father. They were either searching for me or searching for what scared the boys, my protectors. The female must have felt me relax as she lifted off of me and whimpered a bit. I smiled at her and nodded gently, the only bit of movement I could do in a while. The alpha started his low throat growl in the direction of the men approaching, but the female softly barked at him, and then again at the other. Just as my Pahana's head came into view, the female ran her hand and claws over my face gently, almost lovingly and tender, then disappeared into the brush, along with the males. The alpha stopped, looked at me once more, and just nodded. Then he was gone. My Pahana's bow raised and, searching side to side, saw me on the ground. He threw his kit at the nearest man and ran to me. He was asking me what happened, and I told him about the boys who tried to kill me. I also told him that I knew nothing would come of it, as this was a normal thing for me. He asked me what else was out there with me, and why the boys were so scared. And if I had been hurt so badly, why wasn't I bleeding? I answered with one word: Rougarou. He asked why I was still alive. I answered again: Rougarou. He asked how many. I held up 3 fingers. He then asked why they didn't kill me. I responded with Nde, which is our word for friend. He scooped me up and carried me back to the reservation. I looked back to see the female watching. I gave the hand sign for friend to her. She copied me, then disappeared. I haven't seen them since that time, and as crazy as it sounds, I miss them, especially what I have taken to calling her, my wild mother. From what I know now, I think this group wasn't a pack. I think it was a family. They looked different than most dogmen I've seen afterward. Lighter, healthier, cleaner. Most of the ones I've seen recently are dirty, smell horrible, amber or red eyes, scrawny or malnourished, and infinitely more aggressive and territorial. As I've said before, I'm more animalistic than most. I'm able to catch pheromones in the air. I'm able to understand crude attempts at communication from most predators. Hell, I even mark my territory around my property the same way a wolf does. No, I'm not a werewolf, nor do I claim to be. I'm just feral. Not as much anymore, but still wild at heart. When you learn by watching predators, you gain their traits. Back to the family. I think they weren't hunting for themselves. I think they were hunting to bring food back for the pups at their den. I never went looking for them again, and while I've never seen them since, I felt them close by when I took my trips into the swamps. Because as I've implied, the dangers of the swamp were a lot safer than being at home on the res. You can share this story on your channel if you wish. I know it's a long one, I'm sorry. I tried to contain as much detail as possible without triggering non-related things for your viewers. Feel free to cut it down if you need to, or give it to them raw and unfiltered. Dealer's choice, my man. Keep doing what you do, brother. You are a guiding light in the gloom of the human prison of fear, your beacon of hope, of acceptance. And my friend, I cannot thank you enough for it. The Reverend. And just so everyone knows, I'm not cutting anything out. There's trigger warnings in place, and the Reverend deserves to have his full story told as he wants it to be told, just like every previous submitter on this channel. I don't cut things out. I read it as I get it. On to the second email. Hey, Reels, my buddy. In case you don't remember my first encounter, I'll jog your memory with how I was licked by a female dogman, dog woman, and how they scared off some boys from my tribe that were coming back to finish me off. I took to calling the female my wild mother. Now that you're hopefully caught up, my second encounter wasn't really as powerful as the first, and not quite as long either. But I've decided to give you all the encounters I've had so far in chronological order, and one at a time. This is so you can place the encounters into your videos along with the theme you deem it belongs in. I'm digging the themed videos, by the way. Let's catch you up on me first. This took place 6 years after my first encounter with my wild mother, and sadly I have not seen her again, but I have felt her nearby most times. In that 6 years I got big, like hulking powerhouse big. During hunts I was punished with hauling the animals back to the res on account of my bloodline. This worked in my favor due to my white half, and it really upset the other tribesmen. I had gotten to the point to where, as a 16-year-old boy, I could lift a single boar up over my shoulders and back and drag another without them touching the ground. I was not allowed to eat the tribe's kills, so I had to hunt for myself. The bow I had to make was 6 foot long strips of cypress, twisted and braided together, and woven bamboo for a string. This bow was impossible for one other person to draw, but if 2 or 3 others tried together, they could get it. I kept snapping the regular-sized bows, and I got tired of making 5 more every time I broke one. After hauling in 2 400-pound boars for the tribe, I went back out into the bayou to hunt my food. I walked along the same routes we took just hours before, and I spotted the trail of another boar. This one was smaller, maybe 150 pounds, perfect for just me. I tracked the boar to a small clearing maybe about 10 feet across. I notched my arrow and loosed it, impaling it from shoulder to shoulder. It just dropped. This might be a good time to inform you and the listeners now that my arrows weren't normal-sized arrows. These were thick, twice as long as a normal arrow and twice as thick. I had a friend once who said I didn't loose arrows. I launched spears. As I went to retrieve my arrow and my dinner, I heard crashing through the trees to my right. Thinking nothing of it, I grabbed the front and rear legs of the boar and went to swing it on my back and began walking the 2 miles back to my hut. The smell of old rot, that sickly, pungent odor, hit my nose, and I knew what it was before it crashed to the edge of the clearing. I stood to my full height and turned, not quickly, not sharp, just normally, as if I were watching animals run off from a little distance. Crouched just past the tree line in the open was a dogman, or as we call them, rougarou. It didn't look like the others I had seen before. It was black, with a lot of its fur missing. It was thin, emaciated, as if it hadn't eaten in a while. I noticed its ribs, all of its bones were showing. I noticed a long set of claw marks from its right side, above his eye going diagonally down across its face and across its left side of its chest. That animal instinct I've spoken about before told me this one was an outcast, exile. I would imagine it challenged the alpha of its group and lost the challenge, leading to him being banished from the pack. He snarled his nastiest snarl, baring teeth and drooling sticky saliva while clawing the ground in front of him. This wasn't behavior telling me it was going to attack me. It was meant to be threatening enough to make me run off in fear. I just looked at the creature, smiling a little, just enough to not show teeth. As that is an aggressive gesture, and predators, especially canine ones, take that as a challenge. I cocked my head inquisitively and watched. His eyes darted from me to my boar and back to me. I picked up on the sign. I turned gently to face him squarely, and he started to take a step back, unassumingly to get into a defensive position, maybe to lunge towards me. I lifted the boar from my shoulders and over my head. I tossed the boar to him just in front of him. He looked at me again, obviously confused, cocked his head and grunted slightly. I motioned towards the boar, raising my hand towards him. Simple message, but unmistakable. He grabbed the boar with one hand, then struggled a bit, but grabbed it with the other as well and struggled a little to carry it off. He ended up dragging the boar off a little ways, and I turned to walk away. As I walked away, I heard the sounds of him eating the boar, which for some reason made me feel good, as if I helped in some way without wanting anything in return. I made it back to my hut with no problems and went to bed hungry. This is something I'm used to, so it's not a big deal. I didn't know it then, but that was my last peaceful encounter with dogmen. I just didn't know it yet. I honestly think it left me unprepared for my next encounter, but you'll have to wait for that one until the next upload. Ha ha ha, no you won't. Reels coming through clutch. Reels, I'm still with you, brother. Still believing in what you're doing. I want to put it out there that my first 2 encounters are not typical and should not convince anyone that these things are safe to be around in any way. They're not demons, interplanetary beings, or Nephilim, or anything of the like. They are highly intelligent, highly evolved predators, just as natural as a wolf or bear, but different, and not as widely known, but still natural creatures and vicious predators. I know everyone listening to your channel, and you as well, know they are vicious. My first encounters should not tell anyone that these creatures can be domesticated at all. Keep your listeners safe, bud, as best as you can. You're already doing an amazing job at it, just keep it up. Until next time, find me in your comments section, brother. The Reverend. Hey, Reels. Had time, so I decided to type up my third encounter. I'd like you to give a trigger warning to your listeners if you choose to read this on your channel, as there is a child in danger and a couple of deaths in this encounter. I'll change their names. I don't want their families' peace disturbed in any way. I know you and your listeners understand. Buckle up. It's a bit long. I'm sorry. This happened in 1998 in the Tuskegee National Forest in Macon County, Alabama, during the fall. I had left the reservation at age 17 and moved to Georgia. I was 19 at the time. My buddy, let's call him Josh, called me and said his dad had passed away and he could really use a friendly face. I knew his dad well, a good man. He even whooped my butt a few times when I messed up growing up. He was just as much my dad as he was Josh's. I just didn't share the last name. Josh said he wanted to do a little hunting while I was down there. It was something he and his dad always did together, and he figured it'd make his dad happy to see both of his sons doing it again. My stepdad, a full-blooded Cherokee, had bought me a Smith & Wesson 44 caliber lever-action rifle model 1854 for my birthday the year before. It was modified to hold 8 rounds plus one in the chamber. I hadn't had a chance to use it yet. When I told my dad where I was going, he said, "Don't leave yet. I got a gift for you, and it's important." 2 days later, he gave me a little box. He said, "Go ahead and load those in your 1854 and don't shoot anything else while you're out there." Inside the box were 12 silver hollow point bullets, each with wax sealed into the tip. I asked him what the deal was with the silver and the wax. He told me those rounds were special, and I should use them especially in any weird situations. He said he had a vision. Now, I've seen enough things happen around my dad to know he sees things. He never says too much, but when he does, you listen. So I didn't ask any questions. I did what he said. I drove from northwest Georgia to Macon County and met up at Josh's place. I'd already missed the funeral, so we just spent the first day sitting around, telling stories about his dad and laughing, crying, just remembering him in the best ways. The next morning, Josh handed me something and said, "Dad left this for you. He was going to give it to you for your birthday, but he got sick before August even started. He said he was sorry he couldn't give it to you." With shaky hands, I opened the package. It was a big handcrafted Bowie knife, silver handle with a grizzly head carved into the pommel, and a leather sheath. He knew the name I was given by my tribe, Grizzly, so the handle meant something. That knife was beautiful, and it was sharp. I strapped it to my belt right then and there. We headed out in his truck to a small clearing. It wasn't an official parking area or anything, just a spot where hunters left their vehicles if they didn't want to be seen by park rangers or law enforcement. Technically, hunting there isn't illegal, but it invites too many questions. After we parked, we geared up. Josh was admiring my new rifle, then spotted the bullets and laughed. "Werewolves, huh?" he said. "You planning to shoot the boogeyman too?" We both cracked up, but then I said, "Nah, my dad had a vision, told me to only use these." That wiped the smile off his face. Josh knew my dad. He knew what that meant. So I loaded the rifle with silver rounds, cocked the lever, and set the safety. I looked at him and said, "Let's go bag a werewolf," with the goofiest grin I could manage. It worked. He laughed, and the mood lightened. We spent hours out there, not a thing. The sun was dipping, and we knew we had about 2 hours of daylight left. Neither of us liked the idea of staying out there after dark. We sat down and started cracking jokes to pass the time. Then came the scream. High-pitched, terrified, a woman, and something was crashing through the woods fast. We jumped to our feet, rifles ready. The woman burst into the clearing, mud-streaked, frantic, half out of her mind. She spotted us, screamed something we couldn't understand at first. My husband, daughter, danger. We just said lead the way, and we ran. We ran for a solid 10 minutes through thick woods, ducking branches. Eventually we hit a clearing. There was a campsite and a tent. She pointed to the north and just said, "Hurry." We saw it at the same time. 30 feet from us, this thing was circling a little girl. It was upright, hunched, sniffing her like a predator enjoying the fear. Josh whispered, "Oh my God," and I growled. I knew what it was. Dogman. I'd seen one before. I shouted a deep, "Hey," and it snapped its head at me, red eyes glowing even in the last daylight. It bared its teeth and growled. I growled right back. Then it slapped the little girl, knocking her to the ground. Josh opened fire. 3 quick shots with his .308. I turned to check the girl. She was moving, alive. The creature turned toward Josh, howling and sprinting. I fired my first shot, hit it in the neck. It went down screaming and writhing. Smoke came off the wound. The smell of burnt hair and meat hit us. I didn't hesitate. I put 2 more rounds into its skull. Smoke poured from the holes. It stopped moving. Then, Josh shoved me hard. Another one burst from the woods and hit right where I'd been standing. It slammed Josh down and just started ripping into his arms, chest, and neck. I froze for a second. I couldn't move. Then it turned to me and raked its claws across my ribs, sending me and my rifle flying. It went back to Josh. I got up, ran at it, and drove that Bowie knife into its spine behind the shoulder blades. It flailed, tried to reach me, but couldn't. I dove for my rifle and fired again, 3 rounds into its chest. It howled, staggered, and bolted into the woods. I hit it once more in the leg as it ran, but it still made it into the trees, yelping and crashing off into the dark. I turned back to Josh. He was barely conscious, but alive. I got to the woman. She was okay. The girl was up and crying. I shouted, "Sweetie, run to your mom." She did. I asked a woman about her husband. She pointed to a tree. He was sitting against it, dead. I won't describe what they did to him. It wasn't right. I carried Josh back to the truck, gave the woman our rifles, told her to hold her daughter tight. We drove to a ranger station. They called an ambulance for Josh and treated my shoulder, dislocated, badly bruised. I told them everything. They didn't believe me. So, a bear, they said. The woman screamed. The thing that killed my husband was not a bear. They still wrote bear attack. At the hospital, I stayed with Josh as long as they'd let me. When his mom showed up, she hugged me hard, saw the bruises, the sling. I said bear attack. She didn't buy it. "BS," she said. "What really happened?" "Dogmen." Her face went pale. She knew. "How many?" "2. She nodded and said Josh saved my life. We couldn't visit Josh that night. His mom said she'd stay, told me to go home and get some sleep. The next morning she called. Josh had died at 2 a.m. She told me to go home. The way she said it, cold, like she blamed me. I don't know why, but I could feel it. And when I tried to talk to her later, she shut me down, blocked me. I wasn't allowed at the funeral, not welcome at the graves. Weeks later, a ranger called. Said they found a torn-up tent and a silver-handled Bowie knife with a grizzly pommel. I went to get it. It was clean. Too clean. I drove home thinking, what about the one I killed? Where's the body? What about the wounded one? I stopped along the road beside the forest. I was going to say something, to declare vengeance or rage or something. But before I could, I heard them. Howls. Not wolves. Bigger, deeper. Then more joined in. Then more. At least 8. It was a pack. That answered my questions. They came, cleaned up their dead, took their wounded, buried the evidence. When I got home, I told my dad everything. He just nodded and said that wasn't what I was expecting. He said I saw, and I'm not going to say this name out loud just out of respect. It's what we know as Skinwalker, not Dogman. But I'm glad the bullets helped. He said they were silver with white ash inside the hollow points. We held a ceremony for Josh. And that's it, Reels. If you use this, please honor my friend. I've never told anyone else this story. I still carry guilt. His mom blames me. Some days I believe her, but I know deep down I did everything I could. Peace, my brother. Peace to your listeners. The Reverend. Friends, legends, family. That was the full account as shared by the Reverend, and I want to personally thank him for taking the time to send all 3 of these encounters in. And I do want to make it clear, I would like to dedicate this upload to Josh. In his memory, he was a hero. You put yourself in harm's way to save other lives. That is the definition of a true hero. Rest in peace, my friend. Never forget, people. These aren't just stories. These are memories. Painful, vivid, and still fresh after all these years. And that last one in particular, that's not something most people could even talk about. So for him to trust this community with those details, that says a lot about what we're building here. If you appreciated tonight's upload and want to see more like this, do me a favor and like the video. Subscribe to the channel and share it with someone you think might need to hear it. That helps more than you know. To all my listeners and subscribers, you legends, thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this growing family. Everyone stay safe out there. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones, keep your head on a swivel, and as always, good night.